Welcome back, friends. I've missed you. It's a super rainy day here, and I don't know about you guys, but I have that seasonal depression thing. And man, when it is rainy and overcast, it really affects me. Makes me want to crawl under a blanket and watch some good 90s chick flicks. But alas, we are here today together, and as usual, I got some stuff to say, so let's get into it. Welcome to For Real Talk. I'm Christy, founder, marketer, and your filter for what's actually worth buying, because no one has time to overthink every label. I help you find the good stuff and connect you with the founders behind it. This is For Real Talk. Today we're talking about this idea of perfection versus realness. And we see it all the time on a lot of advertising, marketing, influencers, celebrities. All of this is being crammed down our throats, the perfect hairstyle, the perfect house, the perfect kitchen, the perfect recipe. It's overwhelming. But I have to say, when brands are too perfect, it affects me. It affects my attitude towards them. And I'd love to sit here and tell you that I'm stronger than that. Like, I'm not affected by what other people are doing or putting out there, but it's just not true. I, like you, I'm lured by this idea of pretty people and pretty kitchens and pretty houses and these pretty neat lives that they live. Because deep down, it would be nice to have a pretty decluttered kitchen and clean designer spaces where everything that I've thoughtfully purchased fits perfectly into its little spots, It would be nice. But this is not my life. No. This is very far from my life. I have 4 kids, a dog, a job, a husband. We volunteer, we have sports, we have friends. It's crazy and chaotic. And for me, that's where I live. So when I look at these brands or celebrities or influencers that are putting this facade up that it should look this way, it does. It affects me. Because I have the type of brain that I look at a pile of clutter on the counter and I freeze. I'm like, ooh. So I throw a towel over it. I don't really throw a towel over it. I just ignore it until my husband can come home and deal with it, because I can't do it. I just hope it disappears on its own. But all of those pretty people and those pretty ideas that are floating in the interwebs, it does look good. However, lucky for all of us, there's something happening in marketing. And I'm watching founders and companies double down on this idea of being real and not too perfect, which I love. And this shift into realness, I kind of touched on it last week with the whole Aerie campaign, where that 100% Aerie real, they are focused not only on body positivity and inclusivity, but they're running a new ad campaign and they don't use any retouching of their models and no AI generated images, which as a consumer, I'm applauding. Yay. You can trust that they're putting out their version of real. And other companies are taking note. For example, have you seen the new bags of Lay's potato chips? I happen to have a bag right here. Okay, do you see what it's saying here? Oh, it's backwards. It's backwards for those of you watching on video, but you get it. I'll read it to you, okay? No artificial flavors, no color from artificial sources, and right here in the middle of the packaging, made with real potatoes. How novel. Potato chips made from potatoes. And while I'm really encouraged because I feel that the big brands are taking note, we don't want your crap in our food. We are looking at the ingredients list. It is a step in the right direction. But every time a company like this morphs its messaging into the latest trend. My brain, my marketing brain is like, ooh, pause. And my brain is triggered because it says, hey, this brand is reacting to something, and I'm going to take note. And even though my marketing brain is like, oh, hey, they're reacting to what customers want, that makes my mom buying brain hurt a little, because now what we're seeing is this flooding to the market where, oh, everything's claiming to be real. Do you remember the gluten-free stuff or the low fat? It wasn't that long ago that all the packaging switched gluten-free. Lay's potato chips was one of them, gluten-free. So I always pause there because I'm like, okay, they're trying to stay on trend. They're trying to look at their customer base. But how does that make it easier for me, the buyer, to buy it? A lot of times, what I find is the packaging is like deciphering word salad. What does it actually mean? I know there's corporate laws and definitions that companies have to follow, but as the buyer of all things in this household, it's really hard to understand what those claims mean. For example, on the back of this packaging, okay, I'm no farmer, so I don't know exactly how you grow corn maltodextrin or get sodium caseinate in the wild, but is this what you're considering natural? See, I'm confused. I don't know. I mean, that is a really long ingredients list to say that everything is natural and made with real potatoes. See what I'm saying? I don't understand. It's hard for me because the packaging itself becomes troubling. My point here is this. If big brands are acting on this sentiment of carving out realness in their messaging, we should pay attention, because ultimately it's going to fall on us to figure out what they're actually saying. Now, I'm going to give you an example. This is my favorite marketing example right now. Can I just tell you that? Okay. Did anyone see in the news where Brad Rees-ie, the grandson of the inventor of the Rees-ie cup, buys a bag? Okay, this is Easter eggs. So this isn't what he bought. He bought the Valentine's hearts ones, but they didn't have them when I went to the store. It's Easter. Well, it's Easter week, so this is what I have. He buys this bag, takes a bite, spits it out, and says, oh my gosh, this is inedible. He said the taste was way off. Immediately, he flips the bag over, and he realized that instead of chocolate and peanut butter, this bag had compound candy coating and peanut butter creme. I don't even know what that is, but okay. And listen, don't mess with our Rees-ie cups. If there's one thing on the planet not to mess with, this is it, okay? Thankfully, Brad Rees-ie didn't stop there. He took to LinkedIn and he crafted this open letter to the brand manager of Reese's. And he complained, okay, yes, the ingredient swap. But one of his main points was that brand loyalty is anchored in truth. Truth. To quote him, my grandfather, H.B. Rees, built Reese's on a simple, enduring architecture: milk chocolate and peanut butter. Not a flavor idea, not a marketing construct, a real, tangible product identity that customers have trusted for a century. I mean, let that sink in. Because that's it. That's at the core of this real revolution and reckoning that's coming. I mean, heck, even Mr. Beast jumped on this bandwagon. So for those of you who have kids, don't have kids, Mr. Beast has a company called Feastables, and it's a chocolate company. And essentially what they're trying to do is eradicate child labor in chocolate, because it's a huge problem. So he invites Brad Rees-ie onto his show and asks him to try his take on the peanut butter cup versus, the Rees-ie. And what's on Feastables' ingredient list? Milk chocolate, peanut butter. That's it. So to Mr. Beast's point, chocolate should be chocolate. How novel. Chocolate should be chocolate. I think what's so interesting here is when Reese's had to respond, they couldn't just ignore it because the letter went completely viral. And they issued a statement saying that they're going to go back to the classic recipe. So thank you, Brad. We all appreciate this because you don't mess with our Reese's. Let's be honest. Let's talk about founders' second acts. Okay. If you've been around long enough, you've kind of seen the ebb and flow of companies or brands, right? And a brand that's built on an illusion of something usually fails. I can think of probably five off the top of my head of companies and brands that when they don't have an authentic voice, they fail to connect with their audience, or they're trying to sell this idea of beauty or whatever the product is. And it just doesn't connect with the customer long term. And I'm going to share a couple of examples of this with you. I don't know if any of you guys know about Dry Bar, or what Dry Bar is, but Dry Bar was founded by a woman named Allie Webb, and she was a stay-at-home mom who was super passionate about hair. She was a stylist, but she had kids at home and found it really hard to jump back into the workforce with a traditional job. So she had this side hustle business, and she began by posting on a Yahoo Moms group saying that she was a longtime stylist and she could come to their homes and style their hair while their babies were sleeping. The idea took off, and she had a hard time keeping up with demand. So then she had this idea of opening a brick and mortar store, and she went to her brother. I love this part of the story. She went to her brother, who was a former marketing director for Yahoo, and shared her idea. And at first her brother was like, why can't women blow out their own hair? Okay, dude. Men. Just kidding. I love men. But to his credit, he listened to her and invested in the idea. And together they opened the first brick and mortar store. And the goal was 30 to 40 blowouts a day, and that would keep them afloat. But very quickly, 30 to 40 blowouts became 60 to 80 blowouts, and they were turning people away. It became a phenomenon within a decade. 150 stores opened. And at the time, Allie, it felt like catching lightning in a bottle. And in 2020, they sold the company for $225 million. Ah, that's amazing, right? But Dry Bar sold this idea of perfect hair. So women would go, you wouldn't get a cut, there wasn't a color, it was just a style. And you would go and you would have your hair styled for like $40. And it rested on this idea of perfect, smooth hair. So back to Allie. She sells the company for $225 million. And then her life, essentially, in her words, nearly fell apart. Her and her husband, he was also a founder of Dry Bar, they end up divorcing. Their son was dealing with addiction and had to seek help. And to boot, it was 2020, right? So she wasn't doing her hair at all. And you know what happened? I love this. She wasn't doing her hair. She put down the heating tools. She put down the chemicals. And her hair started to grow and get really healthy because she wasn't blow drying it every day or using these harsh chemicals and heat. At that point, she quietly discovered, oh, hey, maybe there's something in this. And just like that, her new company was born. It's called Rees-ie. And Rees-ie is a hair product company that prides itself on celebrating imperfection and hair just as it is, wavy, not trying for this perfectly blow-dried, straight look, hair just as it is. And I love that. I love that she built an entire second empire on this idea of realness, letting her hair just grow seeing what it looks like. I love that. The next example really tickles me. Do you guys remember Marie Kondo? Yeah. She's that Japanese professional organizer who totally hypnotized us. Right, it was right before COVID. And she had this method of organizing called KonMari. And she convinced us that, we should touch every single piece of clothing and clutter we owned and asked ourselves if it sparked joy. You remember you did this. My husband was obsessed. To this day, you can still open a couple of drawers in our house, and it has the remnants of the old shoe boxes that we had ripped to put the little perfectly folded t-shirts and socks and underwear. And let me pause here and just say, Marie Kondo, she is a bright, bright, bright soul. You can feel her good energy beaming from the TV. And I can remember thinking how simple her life looked and how nice it must be to be surrounded by things that spark joy in your life. Well, let's be real. Order and chaos is not part of the reality I was living with, especially at that time. The kids were younger. It was total chaos, especially in COVID. Watching the show, I can recall thinking about what a failure I was at organizing. And it made me feel like, ooh, there's a right way to do things. And I did not have that skill set. Listen, Marie Kondo, she has lovely ideas about organizing, and I don't blame her at all. But ironically, I remember thinking, easy for you to say, you don't have kids. You don't have kids yet. And then, you guys, the most amazing thing happens. Guess what? Guess what happens? She has a pile of kids. And this perfect construct that she built with this organizing and this structure and this idea of this perfectly organized home came crumbling down. She admits after having a third child that she kind of gave up on keeping her home perfectly tidy. And she has since transformed to something called, and I'm probably butchering this, Kurashi, 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 which focuses on inner calm and what matters most rather than just physical tidying. How about that for a plot twist? This is somebody who had built this idea of perfection, this illusion of perfection, and then it all comes crumbling down because it's not attainable, it's not real. Look, I hope Allie and Marie Kondo, that they continue to light the world with the realizations that they've made, and I hope they continue to inspire people all over the world, because this is what I know. When brands and founders and celebrities and influencers hide behind walls of perfection, it feels inauthentic, it feels untruthful, and it's not relevant to me. It doesn't feel relevant, because when somebody has a voice that feels real, I can see it. I can see the authenticity there, and it makes me feel connected. Because let's face it, if it's not real, it's not worth it. And I'm not buying it. Well, unless my kids are with me, because, kids. Till next time. See you soon. Take care. That's it for today's episode of For Real Talk. If you care about what you're buying or what you're building, stick around. Follow us along on Substack and on all our socials and at forreal.life. See you next time.